Okay, I want to show off what I've used as a solution to ice baths. So I figured out that I don't have enough room in my bathroom to put an ice bath, and where I live, I don't want to put it outside. So I figured out I'll put a picture up of, well, I'll just show you this way. Um, Basically, ice is a requirement for an ice bath. I had this stand-up freezer that I bought. I feel like I've only paid like, I don't know. It couldn't have been more than 200 bucks for this thing. It might have been like more like 100 or less. I can't remember the exact amount. But I basically repurposed this, and I got these massive ice cube trays down there. I have two of those. I think I'm gonna get one more because I have about room for maybe one more in here. And then this is what I've done, which is I put a protective layer around here. Okay, and then I have one ice bath, and then I have another ice bath. So this is like this cheap eBay, Amazon ice bath. And I take this off, I take this out, and down there I put a Flex Seal. I think that's what it's called. Flex Seal tape. That's what that is. So I just put that there as an extra precaution because that's where there's like a little spout there to get the water out. So I'm gonna go back over, and I put this over to the side of my thing. Grab this out, and then literally just throw this in here. Okay, and then I can be able to do this with one hand. But basically, after like a few seconds, I can grab this out, and you can see this is just like a food grade container. So anyway, I'll pull this whole thing out, and then uh, let this sit in here for a little bit. And so obviously the longer it sits, the better, but well, the colder. Um, what I find is that when I first put this in, so I just swapped this water out like yesterday. So when I first swapped the water out, it's like room temperature. And I put one of these in there, I put the ice in there as well. And then so the first time I use it, it's not like super cold. Well, I don't know how to explain this. Every time that I use it, the colder that it gets, because what I'll do is after I'm done with this ice, and let me just take it out so you can see it. Okay, so there's the ice, and you can see like my point is I'm trying to make is the first time I use this, then the like this is not frozen solid. Like you can tell, like it broke in half, right? But I'll get in here. I usually do like 3 to 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes is kind of like what I do. That's where I'm at the moment. We'll see if I go longer, but so after I do it, I will use the same bucket and I'll just put it in here, and then instead of like putting new water in every time, I'll just fill the bucket back in and put it back in the freezer. And what happens is now the water is much colder when I put it in the freezer. So the next day, this becomes much more solid. And every day, if I just continue to use this every day, it gets to the point pretty quickly where this is a complete solid piece, right? Where there is no separation here. And in fact, I just did this last night, which is partly why this is so thin. So and I'll put those ice cubes in here too, just to get like some more ice. But because I like swap the water out, I did it at night instead of in the morning. But if you just keep doing it every day, my point is this becomes a complete solid block of ice. So instead of having to do this plus the ice cubes, I can pretty much just do the one thing, and I leave it in here for a bit, and it just keeps it cold. And then keeping the top on this thing too, helps keep the cold in as well. And again, my point of like showing that there's like another ice bath here on the outside that's bigger is, gives me that extra security where, God forbid, something was to happen to this, the water goes here, and then I have that extra little like, silly protection on the outside. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of the ice in here. I put the top back on. I'll leave it for a little while until the water cools down more. I guess I haven't been measuring the temperature yet, but I just gauge basically if the water's cold enough by if the ice is persistent, it stays in there, right? If all the ice melts, to me it's like too warm. So as long as there's like still ice in there, uh, and then I've been using this where I've started out in sort of like a kneeling position because I guess I'm kind of, I don't know, not short enough to like just go all the way in. And then yeah, this is already kind of like not great for the first day. Okay, so I just got done with the ice bath a few minutes ago. You can tell there's not much ice left in here. It's a couple little tiny pieces. So, you know, I was concerned it wasn't gonna be cold enough. Honestly, I think it's like fine. This goes in here to try to insulate. There's a little bit of a gap on the outsides, but this cover goes up back on top, which I'll secure in a moment. And then I just take ice directly out of there, or I take the water directly out of there, and it goes right back in here. So, because this is the morning, then this will have the whole entire day and overnight to cool. So this should be much thicker tomorrow. We'll see. Okay, this is day 2, and you can see how much difference there is in this larger block. Like it's pretty much, there is a hole there, so it's not solid all the way through, but it's much thicker than it was on that first day. So it's just using the same, using the water that's in here to put it back into the freezer. Again, saves the water, but also the water gets colder every time. So then this becomes more and more solid to the point where it's pretty much a solid block of ice. And I only put one of the larger ice cube trays in here. So this is kind of how it works. I could keep a separate like frozen bucket so that I don't have to go through this process when I swap the water out. And there's some ways to keep the water fresher. There's some chemicals that you can put in here. And then there's some things that you can do to keep the water in here so you don't have to replace it as often. However, right now, the point of this is just like, if you've been thinking about it, like, yes, it's nice to have like to go spend $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever on a nice like ice bath. But I think the point is like, if you want to do it, if you understand the health benefits and things, it's just to get started. So this is like the way to get started, anyways. But so I'm going to cover this back up, leave this for several minutes until the ice has a chance to cool down the water even more, and then I'll hop in and then I'll just repeat the same process. Like I said, I probably end up getting one more ice tray just because there's enough room in that stand-up freezer for it. So I think it'll be useful. But I've kind of been getting away without it. It's just these first day or so. And even with it, honestly, it's like, I guess temperature-wise, I need to get a thermometer to test the temperature of the water to see what temperatures I'm getting down to. Supposedly the benefits are best like around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. But I would say, regardless of what it is, I mean, if there's ice in here, and I need to cover this up. But there's a bunch of things you can do, and there's different containers you can get. You can insulate them differently. You can really like, which the thing is like, you will do that over time if you're actually using this. So again, like this video is not like the perfect setup. It's just because you can get ice chillers, you can all this sort of stuff that makes the process like, easier, I guess, in certain ways. But honestly, like one of the things about this is you have to make it simple. And so for me, this is like super simple. I wake up, I grab the bucket, I throw it in here, I cover it up, I go do some of my morning stuff, and then I come back and I hop in. Like it's just like there's not a whole lot of things to do with this at all. Once it's set up like this, it's just easy peasy, not a lot of thought, because if you're thinking about it too much, then you're not going to want to do it. So yeah, you can see there's a good air pocket in there, starting to open up, but still, this is like much heftier than the previous day. Much, much, much. And okay, so just to show you the difference on day 3, after, the 3rd day after changing the water and starting with fresh water. Now you can see, like, this thing is pretty much, it's pretty much solid. You can see the air inside of it. This little air bubble there. Everything else is pretty much, well, there's a lot of this is ice, 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 baby. We got this, and like these are much more solid. So I'm gonna put the top back on here, and then let this cool down, and then hop in. All right, this is about day 4 or so, and this ice has been in here for about 20 minutes, and you can see, it's still plenty. I had got some plastic food containers. Well, the containers didn't have food in them directly, but started adding some of those to my normal freezer. So if you just have like a normal fridge and freezer, you don't have a stand-up freezer, you can use whatever plastic containers work. Fill them up with water, put them in the freezer, and then they freeze. So, yep, I'm about to hop in here. You can see this is opened up, but and you can see like there's little ice cubes in there, because basically I was taking the when I filled this back up and put it in the stand-up freezer, I had some smaller ice cubes in my main freezer, like normal fridge freezer, and I would just kind of throw them in there, just try to get the water to cool down as quickly as possible. So, I mean, I suppose if I had a larger stand-up freezer, that might be better, but also I realized that even if you don't have a stand-up freezer, if you just clear out your like, normal refrigerator freezer, just, you don't even need the big ice cube trays, which are kind of expensive. If you want to go like the super cheap route, just, like, you can kind of tell what container that came from. And yeah, that's about good. So I could let this sit for longer or just hop in. Also got my trusty dusty Casio watch. I traded in my Apple Watch for this bad boy. And guess what? It's got a timer on it. That's the water afterwards. So, still plenty of ice in there, which to me, that's like cold enough. Now, I'm doing this partially because I had an old injury that just felt like I haven't been able to work out, and gotten out of shape. And so at the worst case scenario, this is just helping me reduce inflammation, right? Which is a positive. But my experience is like way more than just that. It's raising, seems like it's raising my body temperature throughout the day, the entire day. Probably helping me with my circulation, I'm assuming, and many other things. So I'm gonna go ahead and just fill up these containers with the water from here right now, so I can go about my day. And there is the water back in there, ready for tomorrow, or gonna be ready for tomorrow.